Solomonster sounds off.
Yep.
Solomonster sound off. Is that right?
Awesome. He will love that.
I can honestly say, after this weekend, having seen a ladder match for the MLW middleweight title on Friday night, having seen a ladder war for the Ring of Honor tag team titles that same night at Final Battle, and tonight, having seen a ladder match with a guitar hanging above the ring, and then a Triple Threat TLC match for the SmackDown Women's title, that if I don't see a ladder match for all of 2019, I will consider it a good year. Talk about killing a stipulation dead. Oh my God. I'm going to break out in the shivers the next time I walk into a Home Depot. This is your Sound Off Extra review for WWE TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs 2018 from the SAP Center in San Jose, California. This was overall a good show. We had an excellent main event TLC match. We had an excellent WWE Championship match and a Raw Women's title match that was far better than it had any right to be. A lot of the other work on this show was solid. I think a good way to put it is solid, if not unspectacular. I would give this show a slight thumbs up. We still had 12 matches. You got to bear in mind, 12-match card, including the pre-show stuff. And of those dozen matches, only 3 really stood out to me as being excellent. That's not a great batting average. That's a lot of good and a lot of very average stuff. And there were some flat-out boring things on this show, which we're going to get into here. But I will go thumbs up on the strength of the key matches and of those main events. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think a 6 out of 10 is fair. I think a 6 out of 10 is fair. I really, really think the length of these shows is an absolute killer. It is an absolute black mark on shows like this that frankly don't need to be this long. You know, the problem with TLC is they find a need to, we got to cover every stipulation there is. So we're going to have a TLC match. Well, that's not good enough. We'll have 2 TLC matches, even though one was more of a gimmick tonight than anything else. And then we'll have a chairs match, and we'll have a tables match. I'm surprised we didn't get a stairs match here on this show. And so they stretch these things out because they just feel they have to make every pay-per-view 4 hours plus. And I really think it hurts a show like this. I think if you cut a few matches out of the show, people come away from it, I think, with a better feeling than they probably did here tonight. They do not all have to be this long. But of the 12 matches on this show, 8 of them ended with a babyface win. So it was a good night for the good guys and girls. This video is sponsored, by the way, by The Ridge. Just in time for the holidays. Christmas is still over a week away. It is not too late to pick up one of these bad boys as a gift for your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or even just your friend. It's a slim front pocket wallet. It's got RFID blocking technology built into it that protects you from data theft. They come in titanium, aluminum, carbon fiber, a bunch of different sizes and colors. You can get a money clip with it or a cash strap on the back. They're literally half the size of the current wallet that you probably have in your pocket. Far better quality. You can get 10% off right now with free shipping all around the world just by going to ridgewallet.com/Solomonster. Make sure you use the promo code Solomonster at checkout. Monday, that's tomorrow, is the last day for guaranteed arrival before Christmas. In fact, a lot of you listening to this right now, it's probably already Monday. This is the final day to get this shipped to you or a friend or whoever before Christmas. So if you do want to get it as a holiday gift for somebody, don't wait around. Go to ridgewallet.com/Solomonster to get 10% off courtesy of the Sound Off. Some notes here from the Kickoff show. There was a fantastic Daniel Bryan pre-show promo. If you did not see it, I'm sure a lot of you didn't. Even now that the pay-per-view is over, I don't care. Go back and watch it. It is well worth your time. It is a classic old-school heel promo. He looks dead in the camera. He yells, he screams, he makes his point. Then he lowers his voice. He whispers, kind of like Jake the Snake back in the day. He ran the gamut of emotions here in this promo to get his point across. He mentioned in this promo that the Yes Lock is no more. It is now back to being the LaBelle Lock, named after Judo Gene LaBelle. He went off on social media and how awful it was, and the shirts that Mike Rome and Kathy Kelly were wearing. He was berating these two to their and they were wearing some ridiculous stuff, but he's berating the clothes they're wearing and the shirts because they were made from inorganic material, inorganic cotton, he said. He said, they just came out with a new shirt for me. It says, yes is dead. He goes, you think I'm going to wear it? No! He flat out said, I'm not going to wear my own merch. He says, down with consumerism. Consumerism needs to die, he said. And the best part about this was, and if you're a longtime Sound Off fan, you know why I have a smile on my face. He mentioned the championship belt, the WWE title, is made from a skin cow that he likes to call Daisy. And he says that when he wins at TLC and retains his championship, he's going to replace the title strap with something different. Now, he didn't mention what, but it harkened back to Sound Off episode 212 in Miami. That was WrestleMania weekend, the weekend of the Rock Cena match. Bryan was on that show defending the world title against Sheamus. We had the chance to interview him before that. And in that interview, he was joking and talking about how PETA and some of the other people were kind of on him for being champion, but having a belt, that was made of leather. Your title belt is made of leather. You're not a real vegan. And he vowed that, when he won at WrestleMania, which of course he didn't, he lost in 18 seconds. But he said when he won at WrestleMania, he was going to get a hemp belt. And well, here we are now, almost 6 years later. I think it's about time we got that hemp belt. What do you think? I thought this promo was great. We had Buddy Murphy defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Cedric Alexander. Really good stuff here. Of course, the crowd, tough to get them into it on the kickoff show when it comes to this stuff. And I don't even know if everybody was in the building at this point. But they did by the end. To their credit, they got the crowd into this in the waning minutes of the match. Cedric hit Murphy with a Death Valley driver on the apron. Rolled him inside, hit the lumbar check finish for what should have been this big dramatic near fall, but you had Vic Joseph, and not a knock on Vic Joseph, but you had Vic Joseph, who is the 205 Live announcer. He did commentary for this match, and he does the old WWE thing where the guy goes for the pin, and he says, we're going to have a new champion, which is code for we're not going to have a new champion. And of course, Murphy got his foot on the bottom rope at the last second. Why they insist on having their announcers they've done this for years. Years. It's part of their formula. Why they insist on doing this, I'll never know. If you're going to do it, don't do it every single time. They do it every single championship match. And it just kills any real drama, I think. Anyway, Murphy regained control, hit Murphy's Law for the finish, and retained the title. Final kickoff match was Bobby Lashley defending, he was challenging Elias in a ladder match with the guitar hanging from the ceiling. First man to grab it could use it as a weapon. That, at least I thought, was the stipulation going into the match. They must have changed the rules because I know I'm not going crazy. I know they announced that the person who grabbed the guitar first could use it as a weapon. Either that or they didn't specify that in and of itself is what could win you the match. I guess in their mind, you pull the guitar down, you win the match, and you can use it as a weapon. That's not how they previewed this match. So Elias grabbed the guitar. Short match. So he won, although he didn't leave as the winner because he got laid out by Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley. He got whacked across the back with the guitar, left laying here to end this segment. It's amazing to think how we now have gotten to a point where we have throwaway ladder matches. The ladder match used to be a really big stipulation, and they still try, like they did tonight, to make it out to be a big deal. It's hard, though, to take it as a big deal when you have a throwaway ladder match on your kickoff show. I don't quite know why you would do that. Although in this case, I guess they did it because they wanted it. They did this gimmick where the Mixed Match Challenge finals, of course, were taking place tonight. Mixed Match Challenge airs on Facebook Watch. You can watch it on Facebook. And so they did a gimmick tonight for the first time where you could watch the finals of the Mixed Match Challenge. You could watch a pay-per-view match for free on Facebook Watch. And that was what opened the pay-per-view. Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox against R-Truth and Carmella. Winners receive the number 30 spot in their respective Royal Rumble matches and a paid vacation anywhere in the world. And as far as opening matches go, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I thought this was entertaining enough. R-Truth and Carmella are a fun team. Jinder Mahal and Alicia Fox, not so much. But Truth and Carmella are entertaining together. Carmella put Fox in the code of silence. She tapped out, and so Truth and Carmella will each be number 30 in their respective Rumbles this year. Unless, of course, R-Truth decides to go ahead and sell his spot to somebody between now and then. That's what I would do. If I'm on that SmackDown roster, I offer him, a pack of cigarettes for that spot. We know he used to smoke them. He smoked a pack once on Raw. Probably still does. So Carmella's very excited. They get in the ring to interview her. She wants to know where they're going to go. They're going to be vacationing somewhere. She finds out that R-Truth had already submitted a destination to WWE officials. They were required, I guess today was the deadline. They were required to submit a destination. She didn't know about this. She's all excited. Where are we going? And it turns out that they're going to take a paid vacation to WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut. Who the hell would ever want a vacation in Connecticut? That's what I say. But I joked a few months ago when they first announced that this whole thing is a stip. I said, don't let Vince McMahon know about this. Do not let Vince McMahon know about this, because the minute he finds out that they're offering a vacation to any of his performers, that's going to be the end of that. Vince McMahon does not like performers taking vacations. It's a sign of weakness. And so a vacation to WWE headquarters is exactly the kind of vacation he would like. We had the Bar, the Usos, and the New Day. Triple threat for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. David Otunga replaced Byron Saxton on this show. I'm not sure who's worse. Although I would have rather had Booker T there. At least he's entertaining. He was there too. He was there for the kickoff show. How come they didn't use him? The standard good match here. It's hard for these three guys to be in a match and not have a good match. But good really is all that it was. They gave him 10 minutes. We've seen this so many times. We have seen so many iterations of the Bar and the Usos and the New Day and the New Day and the Bar and back and forth we go. I said earlier today on the podcast, they could have good matches until they retire if they want, but you got to bring some new teams up. And I say that, of course. I say that they desperately need new teams on SmackDown, which they do. And, of course, I then think to Monday Night Raw, and I see what they've done with The Revival, and I see what they've done with AOPP. So I know I'm probably going to regret even saying that. I'm kind of stuck here. I don't know what I want. Do I really want them to call up teams from NXT? Probably not. But anyway, Kofi and Xavier were representing New Day here in this match. Usos had this big super kick party midway through. Super kicks for everybody. Kofi hit the Trouble in Paradise on Sheamus. Xavier hit a springboard elbow drop, probably a good halfway across the ring for a near fall. And in the end, Xavier ate a brogue kick, and the Bar retained the titles, as they should have. There was no need to change the titles here. Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman, the first of 2 TLC matches on this show. If Strowman wins, Corbin is fired as the Raw general manager. And Braun gets a Universal title match with Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. If Corbin wins, he becomes the permanent general manager of Monday Night Raw. Heath Slater was out there to be the referee. Corbin told him to start counting because Braun ain't going to be here. He ain't going to show up. So naturally, Braun's music hits. Out he comes. He's got his arm in a sling from his elbow surgery. And he reminds Baron Corbin, he goes, in TLC matches, there are inherently no disqualification, which means that I can have anybody come out here technically and help me out. And all of a sudden, all of the men that Corbin has been screwing over on TV the last several weeks, all of a sudden they're out there surrounding the ring and they all have steel chairs in their hands. We see Apollo Crews, we see Bobby Roode, Chad Gable, Finn Balor is out there. And they all start beating on Corbin with chairs. Corbin took a powder, he leaves, goes to hightail it to the back. All of a sudden, predictably, Kurt Angle's music hits. Now, predictable though it may have been, it was the right move. Kurt Angle was the Raw GM. He got ousted. He got sent on a vacation. And so if anybody should want revenge on Baron Corbin, it's Kurt Angle. And he got a big pop. Angle grabbed a chair. He started beating on Corbin with it, chased him back down to the ring. All of a sudden, Roode and Gable, they hit this awesome neckbreaker moonsault combo that they do. I like moves like that. It's one of the reasons that I liked Power and Glory. Even though they're kind of a footnote in WWE history, They didn't last very long. They never really did anything of note. You know, they were never tag team champions, Paul Roma and Hercules. But what I remember as a young wrestling fan, when I would watch Power and Glory back in the day, was that they had an awesome looking finishing move. That superplex into the splash combo, top rope splash, was one of the best tag team finishers I've ever seen. And the way they would execute it was just tremendous. So anyway, Cruz hit a frog splash, Angle hit the angle slam, Balor hit the double stomp, Slater put his referee shirt back on, Braun put his foot on Corbin's chest, and he got the pin. So Baron Corbin is no longer the Raw General Manager, and Braun Strowman will meet Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble for the Universal Championship. This was the right outcome here. They played this exactly the way they should have. It should have only gone a few minutes. It was an easy win for Braun Strowman, a dominant win, even though he had some help. The babyfaces got their revenge. You know, the heel got his comeuppance. The fact is, though, removing Corbin from the GM position on Raw is just the first step in getting Raw back in order. I know in storyline they put all the blame on Baron Corbin for Raw sucking. The fact is, Raw has sucked and been very inconsistent as far as storylines go and just overall enjoyment of the show. It's been a very bipolar show in that regard. Far longer than Baron Corbin has even been on Monday Night Raw. So yeah, they can blame him in storyline as the heel and put heat on him and all that, and that's cute. But the fact is, that show has problems that run far deeper than any wrestling storyline. The entire show needs to be blown up. The entire show needs an overhaul from the way it looks, it sounds, storyline, everything. Now, Vince McMahon is going to be on Raw tomorrow night to shake things up. Hopefully his idea of shaking things up is not just making Hulk Hogan the new Raw General Manager. Natalya and Ruby Riott in a tables match. I've not been a fan of this storyline, you know, and then bringing, and even before the Anvil stuff got brought into it, but then bringing Jim the Anvil Neidhart, you know, and her dead father into it didn't offend me so much as it just bored me. Didn't make me any more interested in this storyline. It just made me kind of cringe and want it to be over with. And I'm happy that this storyline now appears to be over. As far as blow-offs go, I thought that this was handled well. They had Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, the other members of the Riott Squad, were out there with Ruby. I thought it was very smart the way that they had Natty basically picking off each member of the Riott Squad by putting them each through tables. Ruby was on the apron. Natty came at her with a kind of a spear attempt. She was going to spear her through the ropes. And Liv Morgan basically took a bullet for Ruby Riott, shoved her out of the way. And like a Secret Service agent, if Secret Service agents had, you know, pink hair and blue tongues, and Natty speared the shit out of this woman. I mean, she sent this girl flying off the apron. She took a huge table bump, Liv Morgan did. Huge for her anyway. I mean, Liv is a tiny woman. She's not that big. She went flying and crashed right through that table. And I thought that looked great. Then later on, Natty body slammed Sarah Logan through a different table that was set up on the floor. So now they're out of the picture. Natty pulls a table out from underneath the ring with Ruby Riott's likeness on it. Now we have tables with pictures of people on them, which is kind of goofy. And for the finish, they had the Ruby table, we'll call it, set up in the corner. Natty's up on top. Ruby goes for a top rope Rana. And Natty turns it into a powerbomb, puts Ruby through herself for the win. So Jim the Anvil Neidhart is spared. Like I said, very goofy stuff with the pictures on the tables. You know what? The heel got her comeuppance. This story appears to be over. That's enough to be happy about. Drew McIntyre and Finn Balor. I thought these two had a good match. There were no tables, ladders, chairs. This was not a stipulation match. This was not an overly exciting match, but it was a good wrestling match. Referee was inside the ring. He was occupied with Balor late in the match. Drew is outside, and Dolph Ziggler shows up. He comes out of the crowd. He hits McIntyre with a super kick. Now, if you're Dolph Ziggler, you haven't had a lot of luck with this guy. You got one fluke win over him, but otherwise Ziggler's had a rough go of it, by and large. Really a rough go of it in his career. If you're Dolph Ziggler in this situation, you just got off a super kick on this guy. Take that as a win and get the hell out of Dodge. But nope, not if you're Dolph Ziggler. Apparently, he just couldn't help himself. He grabs a chair, and he decides to go back after Drew. And so what do you think happened? He got the chair kicked right back into his face, like a jabron. And Drew brings the chair back inside with him. Balor drop kicks the chair into his face, goes up top, hits the coup de grace, pins him. That is the second loss, the second pinfall loss for Drew McIntyre in the last few weeks after having been undefeated up to this point on Monday Night Raw. And it makes me think, if this guy ends up losing some more on TV, my first thought was maybe they're setting him up for a win at the Royal Rumble. And he's going to win the Royal Rumble match, with the logic being, well, if he loses a few more times on TV, not a big deal if he's going to just turn around and, be the Rumble winner. And then maybe Braun Strowman really is finally going to win the big one and beat Brock Lesnar at the Royal Rumble. Now, if you listen to the sound off earlier today, I mentioned there's two scenarios in WWE right now being talked about for the Universal title match at WrestleMania. Of the two, those two being Drew McIntyre challenging Braun Strowman or Seth Rollins challenging Brock Lesnar. I prefer Rollins beating Lesnar to become the champion of WrestleMania. And I hope that's the direction that they go in. We'll see. But, they tried to make this feel like a big deal. But if that was the big deal being that Drew lost, but again, if that's the case, why have Dolph Ziggler beat McIntyre on TV a few weeks ago in the first place? That's what I don't get. That's really stupid. So later on backstage, Balor is upset. He goes, well, I don't even know why Dolph Ziggler was out there. Thank you for congratulating me on my win. But I don't even know why Ziggler was there. Then Dolph shows up. He says, oh, you're welcome. And he throws Balor over one of the equipment cases. Anyway, this was an angle done to set up a match they've already announced for Raw tomorrow night. Finn Balor, one-on-one with Dolph Ziggler. You could have done this exact same angle without having McIntyre lose to Ziggler a few weeks ago on Raw. It's just, I don't get that. Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio in a chairs match. Aside from the surfboard chair slide that we saw here from Rey Mysterio, which was one of the cooler spots on this pay-per-view, I hate chairs matches. Let me just make that very clear. I think they're stupid. I hate chairs matches. I especially hate chairs matches because every fucking match has chairs. You know how many times we saw chairs on this show alone? Let alone every week? In fact, we just got done watching in a few segments before this, watching half the Raw roster beat up Baron Corbin with chairs. Oh, but this is a chairs match. I hate chairs matches. I hate stairs matches. At least we didn't get one of those on this show. Orton was on the floor. Ray did this slide under the bottom rope with a chair underneath him. And that actually looked like fun. I'm sure it wasn't fun for Randy Orton having to take that, but it looked like it would have been fun to perform. In the ring, Orton, here at the finish, sets 4 chairs up in the ring, one right next to the other. Goes for an RKO. Ray slips out, shoves Orton face first into the chairs. Randy then sits down, very gently sits down on one of the chairs. And Ray walks along the other chairs, jumps up, and hits a victory roll for the win. Kind of convoluted. It seems like a lot of effort for a very simple pin. But he won with it. And I was not a fan of this match. I just was not. I thought aside from that one spot, this was boring. A lot of this was just unnecessary. And I really wish they would do away with these dumb stipulations. Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax for the Raw Women's Championship. This was way better than it had any right to be. And it was all Ronda Rousey. Well, maybe not all. We'll say 96%. How about that? 96% Ronda Rousey. I'll give Nia the 4%. I'll be nice. Nia Jax was in there. She was a warm body in the ring to play off of. Some very impressive flying armbar attempts by Rousey in this match. There was a spot where Ronda had Nia locked in a choke from the front face choke. Nia maneuvered Ronda up into a vertical suplex position, and somehow Ronda managed to escape. She fell behind. She slipped behind Nia in one fluid motion and turned it into I guess what would have been a rear naked choke. I don't think I've ever seen that before, that kind of transition. So that was cool. Ronda hit a huge plancha from the top rope out onto Nia on the floor. That looked great. Her stuff looked a lot better than it has even in the past. Ronda stuff, that is. She got Nia back in the ring, hit a step-up knee, followed by a step-up punch, kind of like a Superman punch, for a near fall. So another crossbody block by Nia this time, or Ronda rather, and this time Nia, a very sloppy roll through, but she rolls through, hits the Samoan drop for a near fall. Now I knew that she was not winning the women's title here. Do you know how I know that? Because Corey Graves said, "We're going to have a new champion," when she went for the pin, which in WWE speak means we are not going to have a new champion. You see a pattern here? Second time tonight that they had done that. So they're in the corner. Nia climbs up with Ronda. She's going to give her a Super Samoan drop off the ropes. Ronda wiggles her way free. She gives Nia a powerbomb. She powerbombed Nia halfway across the damn ring. Gets another near fall. Ronda goes for an armbar. Tamina tried to interfere. Didn't quite work out. And Ronda then looked dead at Tamina and said, "This is for you." Put Nia in a terrible looking armbar and got the quick tap out. One of the few bad things I can say about Ronda Rousey, and I have a lot of good things to say about her, but one of the main bad things I will say is that somehow her armbar has gotten progressively worse through all of her matches. And look, I don't expect her. I know she's a real fighter, and you don't want her to get carried away and really hurt anybody. I don't want her to legitimately go in there and break people's arms. I'm not saying that. But she surely can do a better job of making it look more menacing. I feel like she was doing that early in her run. I don't remember thinking to myself in her first few matches, boy, that armbar looks terrible. But it just seems like it looks worse and worse every single time she does it. I started noticing it in the matches with Alexa, and it just seems to be getting worse. Now, that said, I have to say this. It is hilarious to me that there are still people, and believe you me, there are still many people, I saw it tonight, who don't think Ronda Rousey is very good. It just makes me cackle with laughter. These people try so hard to find excuses to convince themselves that Ronda is no good. They must be Slender Man. They're burning so many calories as hard as these people try. And look, I admit, I'm not the biggest Nia Jax fan. Even if you take into account a little bit of bias, if I give you that much, the fact is, Nia Jax still isn't very good. But Ronda Rousey, to look at her matches over the course of the year as she has progressed, and she's been put in higher profile situations. I mean, for God's sake, she was in the main event, of a couple of pay-per-views now. She has clearly improved from where she was even when she first started. To not give her any credit for it or to say that she just isn't very good is completely ridiculous. And now, look, I already knew when I tweeted that out. I mentioned this in a tweet. I knew the minute I said that and the minute I pushed send on that tweet that I was going to hear either from the Bella Army or from the Bliss Army. Thank God I didn't hear from the Sasha Army. Everybody's got their own army. It's like some great civil war is about to break out between all of these different factions. You notice that? Everybody's got their own army. Where's my army? I want an army. But sure enough, I posted that tweet right on cue. I heard from one person. The first person I heard from, Bliss Fit Army is their name. I couldn't help myself. I had to look at their profile. I'm Alexa's biggest fan. Of course, they have an Alexa Bliss illustration as their avatar. I was going to engage with them. And then I saw the Alexa Bliss picture as their avatar, and I just said, I can't take people like that seriously. Another person said, oh, the match was rehearsed over and over again. That's not wrestling. Ronda is good at remembering. Ronda has a good memory. That's what she deserves credit for. She can remember things. Even if she does rehearse her matches. And by the way, we don't know that she rehearses every single match. We know that she was doing that at the beginning of the year, the WrestleMania match. We know that. I don't know that Ronda Rousey is still at a point where she's rehearsing every single match. She's wrestling on house shows now and live events. So let's just put that out there first. But let's say she is, right? Even if she does rehearse her matches. And by the way, what do you think the women do in NXT? You don't think they don't rehearse their matches? I'll sing the praises of the NXT women all day long. Doesn't change the fact that many of them are great performers. That's fine with me. Well, many of them, not all of them. But you don't think they rehearse their matches? By the way, and also, Ronda and Charlotte, the match they had at Survivor Series, it's not like they had a lot of lead time on that match. That was not going to be the original match. It was, maybe a week or two beforehand that match got changed on the fly because of Becky's injury? They didn't have weeks to rehearse their match. And they went out there and they had one of the best women's matches. I mean, fuck that. They had one of the best matches in WWE all year. How do you account for that? But let's say she did. Let's say she did rehearse the match, right? Going into tonight. What do you think she does? You think she's got a pull string in her back? You just pull the string and she goes ahead and automatically performs all of her moves? She's got a cruise control button on her ass that she pushes and she automatically does the moves like a bot? It's like using that as some kind of argument against how good she is this early in her career just because you don't like her. And that's fine. If you don't like her, look, I'm not saying you have to like Ronda Rousey. I'm not shaming people who don't like Ronda Rousey. I'm shaming people who have oyster crackers for brains. The fact is, Ronda is up there with a select few in how quickly she has picked up this wrestling thing, especially with less than 2 years of experience under her belt. And I'm not going to say where she ranks. Is it like Kurt Angle or Brock Lesnar, who had great first years? I'm not going to sit here and say she's better than those guys. But I'm going to say she's in the conversation when you look at best first years in WWE, most improved, most advanced in a short period of time. Yeah, you bet your ass she's in that conversation. Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. An excellent back-and-forth match. If you are a fan of professional wrestling and you are a fan of great storytelling and psychology and matches, then this was the match for you. AJ was working over Bryan's leg. He was giving Bryan chop blocks, of course, giving him a taste of his own medicine because on TV, Bryan was the one giving AJ chop blocks and going after his knee. Styles hit a 450 splash for a near fall. AJ got the calf crusher, and Bryan was thinking about tapping out. Finally, he made it to the ropes. And Bryan's out there. He's selling his leg, man, like he's in just agonizing pain. Selling the leg and selling the knee. And so they're on the outside. And he goes to throw AJ into the barricade. AJ jumps up into the timekeepers, that little section they have over there. And he ends up hitting the phenomenal forearm off the barricade by where the timekeeper section is. Then he goes for the springboard in the ring. Bryan dodges it. And then AJ catches Bryan with an inside cradle. Bryan rolls through. And this time AJ can't kick out. And Daniel Bryan pins AJ Styles with an inside cradle. So yeah, not the most flashy finish in the world. Not the most exciting finish. And it kind of came out of nowhere. But just a straight up great wrestling match. Pretty stiff too. I mean, they were laying in those shots. And in the end, Daniel Bryan retains the championship. And the finish leaves things open for one more match. At least one more match between these two. I don't know if they're going to drag it out until the Royal Rumble or not. I suspect they probably will. And maybe they'll have some kind of a gimmick match. 2 out of 3 falls or a submission match or something. Given their movesets, I would think either a submission match or an I Quit match or something like that would make sense for them to have. So I would assume that's kind of the road they're going down here. But you know what this also means, and this is what I'm most excited about here. It means we're going to get a hemp belt. He didn't outright say that. He didn't specify the material. I guess hemp wouldn't be PG, but we better get a hemp belt on SmackDown this Tuesday. That's all I got to say. Seth Rollins against Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental Championship. This match was the most disappointing thing on this entire show. Everything else was either very good or just very average or okay. Some stuff was dull. This was just boring. This match is the match that of all the matches on the show, 12 matches. And this may have just had to do with how deep into the show we were. But this is the match that damn near put me to sleep. This match got audible chants of this is boring in different parts of the match. When was the last time you heard boring chants during a Seth Rollins match? I don't ever remember hearing that before. Somebody tweeted me and said, well, it wasn't a TLC match or a stipulation match, so people weren't as interested. No, 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 no. You can't excuse it away like that. We just came off, right before this, a tremendous one-on-one pro wrestling match between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. No tables, no chairs, no ladders, no thumbtacks, no gimmicks. I didn't hear any boring chants during that match. I actually heard "this is awesome" chants. So you can't explain it away that easily. I'm sure part of it was that people were tired of sitting around for 3.5 hours and they just wanted to see the main event. They wanted to see Becky Lynch. There were loud Becky chants, so clearly there was a segment of the audience that was waiting for her match. But again, still, you can't just explain it away like that. If the match was any good, the people would have been into it. They weren't into it. And they've been building this up as one of the main storylines on Monday Night Raw now for weeks and weeks. And I am still waiting for this Dean Ambrose heel turn to really sort of jump out at me and get me excited here. Because it's been one disappointment after another ever since this guy turned. The turn was great. And ever since then, it's just been one big ball of bullshit. It's been one big ball of nothing with this guy. So, I don't want to put all the blame on Dean. I think they both deserve equal blame here. The match itself, the work was solid. It wasn't like they were sloppy and botching and stuff like that. They had a story they were telling. Part of that story was Seth's knee. And it might have been the same knee that he had operated on a few years ago. I think the left knee. He was having some knee issues, and you could see him favoring the knee, and Ambrose was working on it. And so, look, when you're working a story where a guy is selling a body part or selling a knee, it depends on how you do it. I think that there are probably more interesting ways of doing it. And sometimes you do it, and it's just fucking boring to just watch somebody sell and sell and sell. That really wasn't what we had here. So again, I don't want to use that as any kind of excuse. But that was the story they were telling here in this match. Like I said, the boring chants were coming down. They started to pick things up at that point. Rollins hit a giant frog splash off the top rope for what would have been an attempt at a 3 count, but Ambrose got his knees up, and he rolled Rollins instead into an attempted pin, only for a 2. So Rollins came back with his big superplex into the Falcon Arrow spot for a near fall. Didn't win with it the way he did on TV a few weeks ago in the open challenge against Ziggler. So Ambrose is going for a super kick. He is going for, or Rollins is rather. See, I told you I was half asleep for this match. He was going for a super kick on Ambrose. Ambrose was down on his knees. And instead, Dean puts his fist out. He wants an old school Shield fist bump. And Seth looks at his own hand and he's kind of staring at it and he's getting angrier and angrier. I was waiting for him to talk to his hands the way that the Ultimate Warrior used to, channeling the power of the Warrior. They go outside the ring. Rollins hits a buckle bomb into the barricade, same move where Finn Balor got injured in their match at SummerSlam a few years ago. He rolls Ambrose back inside the ring. He starts yelling at him and he's cursing at him. This is for Roman, you're a son of a bitch, and all this other kind of stuff. And he starts smacking Ambrose around and slapping him. And he sets up for the curb stomp, but when he comes off the ropes, Ambrose kicks him in the gut, hits a Dirty Deeds, and gets the pin. So Dean Ambrose is the new Intercontinental Champion. It was the outcome that I figured we were going to get, especially if Seth is going to be set up, possibly as a Royal Rumble winner, possibly challenging Brock Lesnar for the championship at WrestleMania, which again is the Universal title match that I would prefer of the options that I've seen floating around. And to do that, there's no reason for him to be the IC champion, which means you had to get the belt off him at some point. Now is probably as good a time as any. Maybe being the champion will get Ambrose going. Ambrose needs some kind of a spark too. For all this talk about a shakeup on Raw, who needs a shakeup? Dean Ambrose. Because this heel turn just ain't working. Maybe this title is what he needs. Then again, we've seen people win that championship before and just drag that thing down into the abyss. I remember a time when Dean Ambrose was part of the Shield. He was United States champion, and it was comical. He never defended it. He walked around with it. He would wear it around his waist. I remember him joking once and saying, it's too much paperwork. They made a joke out of it. Hopefully this does not turn into one of his old U.S. title reign here, now that he has the IC title. But yeah, this was not good. This was just not an exciting match. This was not really all that good. This was probably the worst or the least interesting Seth Rollins match that I've seen in months. But I will say one thing. Corey Graves. I didn't forget. I know some of you were going to think, oh, I can't believe he didn't mention this. Corey Graves, at the finish, before Dean Ambrose got the pin, after he hit Dirty Deeds, he did say after Dean hit the move that we're going to have a new champion. And for once, they were right. They actually did it. They gave us a new champion. They swerved me. They swerved me. Third time on this show they did it, and this time we actually got a title change, so kudos to them. I still think they do that far too often, and it makes things far too predictable when they telegraph it, but hey, that's me. Main event time. Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Asuka. Triple threat match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. This is the match that I was waiting for. This was the main event in every sense of the word, and now that the show is over, I can sit here and tell you that this was indeed the main event of this show. I loved the hell out of this match, even though I watched most of it in fear that somebody was going to die. There were parts of this match I was watching and I was thinking to myself, are they aware that it's a work? Like, is this some kind of like a semi-shoot? Do they not like each other for some reason? They were beating the shit out of each other here in this match. The other thing I really liked about it was, as the bell rang and the match started, I was looking at the three of them in the ring together, and I saw Asuka, and I just thought to myself, you know what? This is pretty cool. When you look at the year that she has had since winning the Royal Rumble and since losing to Charlotte at WrestleMania, how Asuka has been just shoved into the background in favor of Carmella and Lana and Naomi and all of these other women on that brand, and now, of course, Becky has become the big name. Asuka has just been completely marginalized when she had so much more to offer. And to her credit, her popularity never waned. Apparently, that's what got Vince McMahon's attention a few weeks ago on television when Asuka got this great reaction when she was in the ring lined up with all the other women, and Becky Lynch had to pick a replacement to face Ronda at Survivor Series. She picked Charlotte, but when she got to Asuka, the place went nuts. And that apparently opened Vince McMahon's eyes and was as big of a reason as any why Asuka ended up in this match. And so despite being on the back burner for so long, Asuka has been able to maintain her popularity. When this match was over and she won, as over as Becky Lynch was with this crowd, the place popped huge. Because they also liked Asuka. They didn't boo her, they didn't resent her for it, and that's a credit to her. And just watching her in a pay-per-view, a main roster pay-per-view main event for the very first time like this was very cool. That was a very cool thing to see. Now, getting the title off Becky as they did here, Asuka is the new champion, it was the right move. I thought it would be Charlotte. I preferred that it would be Charlotte, not because I'm so excited to see Charlotte win the championship back, but because I figured Asuka could then win it from her at WrestleMania. But whoever it was, the title had to come off Becky to get her to that Ronda Rousey match, hopefully, at WrestleMania. So I thought, in that respect, they did the right thing by getting the title off Becky, because it just was something that had to happen at some point, and now seemed like the perfect time to do it in a triple threat match instead of it being one-on-one. So Becky's out there, Charlotte's out there, Asuka's out there. Becky got great chants, huge chants from the crowd, even got chants in the Intercontinental title match. They were ready to see her, and they were done with Rollins and Ambrose. And so this had like a big match feel when the bell went off. They made it a point to mention that this was the first women's TLC match in WWE. So they've basically done everything, I think, at this point, except a WrestleMania main event, right? They've had the first women's Royal Rumble, first women's Money in the Bank, first women's Hell in a Cell, first women's TLC. I mean, what else is left? Right? They're going to do a WrestleMania main event probably next year. There's talk of maybe a Queen of the Ring tournament. And at that point, hopefully, we don't have to listen to them talk about first this and first that. That's why I kind of like this, because the more of these they get out of the way, we won't have to listen to them talk about it so much. So many big spots, so many dangerous spots here in this match. The first one that came early in the match, there was a table set up in the corner, and Charlotte got powerbombed into it, and the table did break. Asuka powerbombed her into it, but she kind of powerbombed her low into the table, and it still broke, but her head just bounced off the back of it. And she immediately grabbed the back of her head. I thought for sure she was concussed. She might have been. Didn't stop her from continuing the match. She seemed to be okay after. And that was not, by the way, the worst abuse that Charlotte would take in this match. You know, for all the talk about Asuka and for all the talk about Becky and how she's, red hot right now, Charlotte deserves a ton of credit, maybe more than anybody else in this match, for the abuse that she took, all the big bumps that she took tonight. Charlotte also deserves a lot of credit, I think, for the effort and the performance that she put in here tonight, because she took a licking and she didn't stop. She kept going, and hopefully she's okay, and I'm sure everybody's banged up, but hopefully there were no major injuries coming out of this match, especially on this next bump, which was the biggest bump of the match. I cringed. I grabbed my own insides when it happened. So Charlotte and Asuka are laid out on the announce desk outside the ring. Becky brings a gigantic ladder over. She climbs to the top of the ladder, or nearly the top of the ladder, and does a like a seated senton. Does a dive off the ladder. Now, Asuka was smart enough to get the hell out of Dodge. So before Becky landed, Asuka got the hell out of there. Charlotte was not so lucky, because not only did Becky land right on top of her ribs and her midsection, the table did not break. I don't know how this table didn't break. I mean, the force of her ass just came down from that height and the table didn't break, and she bounced off of Charlotte. Charlotte falls on the floor. They had to mute whatever it was. She was cursing up a storm. I'm sure that did not feel good. Referee immediately came over and was checking on her. Charlotte was down for a few minutes. Again, she continued the match. She came back into it, so it can't be anything serious, but it wouldn't shock me if she had bruised ribs. Now, Charlotte did come back a couple minutes later. She had a kendo stick in her hand. She started going after Asuka with it. She started going after Becky with it. She was still clutching her ribs. There was another spot where Becky gave her a power bomb into a table. There was a table that was not set up, but it was laid flat against the barricade. And she just powerbombed Charlotte right into the table and into the barricade. And that also looked like the impact was not very pleasant. So Charlotte is down. Now we have Becky Lynch and Asuka, and they're going at it for a while. Asuka got a hold of that kendo stick, and boy did she lace into Becky with that. She must have laced into her 15 times with that fucking thing. She was going crazy. Fast forward a little bit, we've got Charlotte back in the ring with Becky. They're jaw-jacking back and forth, and they're going at it. And Charlotte puts Becky on top of a table outside the ring. She looks up. We know what she's about to do. She already hit the moonsault earlier in the match. Now I'm thinking, oh boy, she's going to try the moonsault through the table. Now Charlotte, when she's in motion going through the air, she looks, at peace with the world, right? She gets the full rotation. It looks nice when she's in midair. But the landing is always wonky every time she goes for that, the moonsault. It's like she over-rotates. She barely grazes her opponent. And if I remember, I don't remember what match it was. Actually, now that I think about it, it might have been the match with Becky at Evolution. It might have been the match they had at Evolution where Becky, I believe, was on a table in the ring, and Charlotte went for a moonsault. And again, I don't think she really hit it well. Table didn't break. I had visions of this in my head. And instead, thankfully, she didn't do that. She hit a cannonball and went right through the table, right through Becky. So Charlotte gets in the ring. She's setting up a ladder. She's going for the championship. Asuka is back. She cuts her off. And now they're on top of the ladder and they're punching each other. Becky Lynch, meanwhile, has retrieved a second ladder, and she's taking forever to bring it into the ring and get it set up, so these other women are still punching each other. She sets up the ladder. Asuka's been knocked off. Now it's Becky and Charlotte up on top of the ladder going at it. All of a sudden, Ronda Rousey shows up. She comes down, very casually walks into the ring, and she tips over the ladder, sending Becky and Charlotte out to the floor. They landed in the ring, but they rolled out to the floor. And then Asuka sees this, and she takes advantage of the situation. Ronda has left. Asuka starts climbing the ladder. The fans are, building and building. They can see what's about to happen. And Asuka retrieves the championship to win the match. Asuka is the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Gets a very nice ovation for it. The way that they did this with Ronda interfering in the way that she did sure makes it look like we're in for a triple threat match at WrestleMania. Probably for the Raw Women's title. Now, my fear was that putting the title on Asuka here in this match meant for sure that Charlotte was going to beat her for the belt But that was assuming that they were going to be doing Ronda and Becky one-on-one at WrestleMania. That would have allowed them to do Charlotte and Ronda separately. So that was my thought process going into this match. Now I'm not so sure. Although, if they do a triple threat match, where does that leave Asuka? Who does Asuka defend against then at WrestleMania? I mean, hell, none of this might even matter in 24 hours. If Vince McMahon shakes up both rosters, all we know is that he's coming to Raw to shake things up. What does that mean? We don't know. Is he only going to shake up Raw? Is this the beginning of a draft? Is he going to shake up both rosters? Is he really going to shake up anything at all? Is he going to shake his ass? We don't know. Maybe it's the return of the McMahon Kiss My Ass Club. We'll know in less than 24 hours. So there's a lot of questions yet to be answered. But the key people are set up exactly where you would expect them to be going into the Rumble, going into WrestleMania. What it looks like now is that at the Royal Rumble, it may well come down to Charlotte and Becky. It was the final two in that match. I had kind of envisioned it coming down to Becky and Nia, with Becky eliminating her and winning the match. She got to smack Nia around a little bit backstage after Nia's match. She gave her a nice whack across the face. That may be it, for all we know. I would still expect some kind of interaction in the Women's Rumble match between Becky and Nia. But it looks like we're in for a final two of Becky and Charlotte, which, if they do that, I kind of like that because there is some intrigue there. I mean, you would think Becky is going to get the big win, but maybe not. It would be completely plausible for Charlotte to win that match also. And I feel like we don't get that enough. We don't get final two, final three, four people in the Rumble too much where you really don't know who's going to win. It just doesn't happen a whole lot. And if that's the plan, if that's the idea, then I'm okay with that. But at least they're building intrigue for it. But this match was great. This really was. I mean, the effort was there and everything, but everything just clicked. You could tell there were some things that were a little herky-jerky and they were a little hesitant, but you would be too. I mean, look, when you're in a match like this, I would rather they err on the side of caution, and there were a lot of times in this match where it did not look like they were doing that, and it's amazing that nobody got seriously hurt or killed. And that's the thing I always worry about, whether it's the women, the men, especially the women in this situation. They've not been in a TLC match before. Asuka's never been in a TLC match before. I worry less about her. Asuka's been through worse in Japan. Go watch the stuff with her and Minoru Suzuki. Okay, we know Asuka could take a shit kicking and a beating. We already know that. I'm not worried about her. But anyway, I'm just, happy that nobody got seriously injured here. And by the way, on the Ronda thing, I see people saying, oh, she turned heel. I didn't see that as a heel turn. Even though the crowd reacted like it was and they booed the hell out of Ronda when she walked out, I did not see that as a heel turn. She was getting revenge on two women that she hates. She was getting revenge on Becky, who's been talking nonstop shit about her on social media. And she was getting revenge on Charlotte, who beat the piss out of her with that kendo stick at the Survivor Series. So I don't really see that as a heel turn at all. So that's the rundown of TLC. Now, as always, let's check where the poll is, because I did get a poll up on Twitter at Solomonster. It is going to be up for the next couple days if you want to vote. The poll is still open. So far, we've got 2,000 votes, just under 2,000 votes. And wow, look at that. 81% thumbs up, 19% thumbs down. That is surprising. That is surprisingly high. I did not expect the poll results to be that high. Like I said at the beginning, I would give the show a thumbs up. I would vote thumbs up too. I wonder how much of that 81% though is an enthusiastic thumbs up, because I can't really say that it was an enthusiastic thumbs up. I think those key main events really saved the show from being a thumbs down, and I would go probably 6 out of 10, but maybe you feel differently. Let me know what you think. You can leave comments down below. As always, in the comments section, give this video a thumbs up if you would be so kind. Hit that sub button if you're not already a subscriber on this channel. We got a lot of other cool content here. I have an interview up with Tony Schiavone that I did a week ago talking MLW, and of course some WCW and WWE. And there's going to be a bunch of other clips and videos going up throughout the week. So keep it locked in here. Brand new podcast coming up this weekend. That'll be episode 578. That's the Christmas show. Until next time, be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great week, have yourselves a very happy holiday, and I will see you back here on the YouTube channel very soon for more Sound Off. Take care, guys.